look good?
Yep.
Alright. So guys, I told you that I would go ahead and tell you the story behind the footprints. But I'm going to go ahead and start the story off kind of closer to the beginning of the canoe trip. I got to tell you, I couldn't have asked for a better partner for the canoe trip. Definitely a joy. Only my second time out with him. Very knowledgeable, very enjoyable to be out with him, to be honest with you. And you know, you can't get a lot of people that'll go out and do trips like that because obviously it's a risk. Anybody that says it wasn't a risk would be a fool. And I knew it was a risk when we went out. We knew what the weather was going to be like. We knew it was a chance that the river may freeze over on us. Honestly, didn't think it was going to freeze that fast, but it did. So, of course, I'm out here in this beautiful spot right here, enjoying myself. Just seen some snakes. Got these new snake boots. They're supposed to be waterproof, so I'm testing them out. Yeah. So the first day on the trip, just a normal day per se. You know, we seen that eagle flying up, and seen the dead bald eagle, and then we seen the bald eagle again, or another one, whichever. We don't know. No way to tell. So yeah, that was a good day. It was really awesome. The weather was just right. You know, wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. Seen a beaver at the beginning of our trip there, just kind of going along the bank. That was pretty neat. And found our camping spot. And we roamed that island for some time before we found that one spot. And of course, that bank was super, super steep. And then, of course, you've seen where we put the water bottles in the sand to help keep them from freezing, because that was our biggest challenge, keeping things from freezing during that trip. It was obviously cold. And it was a good night's sleep that night, honestly. The weather didn't come in as bad as we thought, or it had been planned to happen. And of course, got up the next day, and it was a noticeably different day. Definitely colder and windier. There was parts of that trip where that wind was just, I mean, as soon as we got around that first bend, got out on the river, we knew that wind was really going to play havoc on us. Some of the spots in that river would funnel that wind down, or it's just straight line winds, just funneled straight down through that river. And of course, anytime you're on the water, it's always cooler, especially if the wind's coming through there. The temperatures, I can't remember what they exactly were, but obviously we're down in the freezing, the teens, throughout most of that day, I believe. And there was a section of that river where the water, I didn't film this part because it was just absolutely too dangerous to be filming, and honestly, I didn't want to ruin my camera equipment over filming it. Wasn't worth it. I wanted to show you what it was like, and you know, I said that the river was white capping. Of course, where I was videotaping, it really didn't show any of that. But where it was white capping, I was more worried about staying in the boat, keeping the boat flat and floating, so I didn't really film that. But there was definitely a section where we were going along, and when it's white capping, you can't see the bottom of the river. You just can't see it. And we're paddling along, and the wind's blowing us backwards if we're not paddling. So we had to paddle. And of course, our arms were getting tired, and then we hit this rock shelf that just came way out and dropped straight off. We kind of skipped on top of it, and the boat started to get cockeyed on us. And boy, that was kind of a hairy deal there. Finally, we were able to kind of get an idea about where that rock cliff was, and got back on track there. And like I said, we just sat there and were paddling and just paddling along. And man, I told him, man, my arms are about to give up. And he said, yeah, but we're just going to go backwards if we don't. Maybe we should bank it or something, you know. And going along, and just about to a point where in your mind, you're just ready to give up, you know. Your arms are dead tired. Our oars were collecting ice on them, so they just weighed so much more. That canoe sat pretty flat, or you know, pretty shallow in the water. Not too much of it was sticking out. We had her loaded down pretty good, and it was sort of top heavy because of all my gear. That was just like I was saying, there's that point where you're about to give up, and your mind's just, you don't have much more energy left in me. And then all of a sudden, right out in front of us, I kid you not, it's like something out of a film. It was, I don't want to say my saving grace in that moment, but this eagle come up, this bald eagle come up and flew straight at us. Kid you not, flew straight at us, come around, swooped around us, and then flew right straight back out in front of the boat. I wanted to film that so bad, and I kid you not, we're in that boat and we're like, woo! Yeah, let's kick this, you know? Getting it in high gear and just pumping it up. It really pumped us up to get us through that long stretch. I don't know how long that stretch was. It definitely seemed like it was a mile at least of just hard paddling. I mean, you got to just kind of keep it steady, and there's moments where, like I said, it got a little hairy, but we got through that. And I think once we got around the next bend where it wasn't as windy, we went along to where our next windy bend was going to be, and we parked the boat and had that Pepsi and that Snickers, and he's the one that brought that, and I'm glad he did. I haven't been drinking pop for, well, probably 9 months now. Once in a while I'll drink one just out of the blue, but I try not to, because I'll end up on my camp trips getting headaches from caffeine headaches or whatnot. So I've been trying not to drink the pop, and well, that's that, you know. Just it's like having a Pepsi and a pizza. So anyway, so the next day, or let's see, no, that same day, we get off into our spot we're going to camp, you know, and we checked out that area very well before we had sat down, because we knew the next day might have been a day we may had to walk out. We already knew that was a possibility. Of course, once we got to that spot, the river had started to slush over just a little bit, which in my mind I thought would have been the coolest thing ever, to be canoeing along while the river was slushed over and you could see the canoe track going through the slush. Sounded cool, probably would have been cool, but well, as you guys know, the river froze over. But what a trip, man. What a trip. We camped out that night and decided to share our shelter. We just used that one shelter and shared it. We really didn't have a fire overnight, just enough at the beginning of us going to sleep. It started snowing pretty good and started to smoke out the shelter, just like me and Justin's did on that day. It started snowing around in there. So no fire, not really. Woke up the next morning, as you've seen, and the river was slushy, frozen, and then 10 minutes later it froze completely over, and obviously at that point we knew for sure that we weren't going down that river. We had actually kind of made that decision before the river completely froze over, you know, within that 10 minutes. So he contacted one of his 3 contacts and got a hold of him and decided to meet up. I believe it was at 9 o'clock that morning. So he hiked up to the top following his GPS, his compass, and the map that he carried, because he had this all planned out real nice. I mean, really well thought out. And we had talked over that whole situation. He got up to the top there, and of course looking at the map and following the GPS and your compass, you know, and you're looking at it in person, you don't sometimes believe what you're actually seeing on paper. I know it's hard for people to say, and it's easy for them to say, yeah, you would easily follow that, what you see on paper, what the GPS says, what the compass says, but your mind sometimes says, hey, that looks like a driveway, that's not right. And that's exactly what happened. He called me back an hour later, probably about an hour later, and said, man, I'm about 2 miles from the truck. And not a big deal for me, I didn't care. I was enjoying myself out there, hauling some of my gear up to the point up there and whatnot. And so we did that. He got to his truck, and of course I kept hauling my gear back and forth. And here's the part where you guys are about to find out what them footprints were. So I sat up there and was charging my phone with my solar charger, trying to keep the percentage up. The cold had zapped my battery down on my phone. I had it at 3%, down to 2%. I think it may even hit 1%, and I set my solar charger out there. It was cloudy just like it is today. Not really a drop of sun, but it was enough to keep that battery at that same 2% that it was at. Just enough to keep a phone call or something like that going off and on. And he called me back up at about 11:15, 11:20, I don't remember exactly what it was, and said, "Hey man, I just got pulled over." I said, "Oh boy." And he said, "I'll just have to tell you when I get there," and he hung up, basically. End of the conversation right there. I'm going, what in the world did you get pulled over? Did you have something wrong with your trailer? Because the trailer, you know, did the lights not go? All this stuff's going through my mind, and I'm thinking, man, it really took a long time to go get your truck and come back, and it's not his fault at all. He gets back there and he goes, "You're not going to believe why I got pulled over." Come to find out, the reason why I had the footprints around my truck is because the police department, sheriff's department were checking out our vehicles. They were looking for us, which I think was honestly really cool. They kind of thought, you know, nobody in their right mind would ever take a canoe trip in that kind of conditions, knowing that the river is probably going to freeze over, and it did. And once it froze over, they kind of went into search mode. You know, that first day that we were out there, we seen that, I talked in the video about an aircraft coming over, and I kind of wonder, and it probably isn't, but maybe, that aircraft flew over us twice at a fairly low altitude. And I kind of wonder even now if maybe that aircraft was searching for us at that moment. They did find a dead body upriver of us, and I'm sure they thought that maybe something had happened. I say upriver, I mean quite a ways upriver, even upriver from where my truck was parked. Yeah, pretty freaking crazy, guys. Had them searching for us. We never even called them in. It even got to the point where they had already contacted his house. They'd called his house as a farewell check to see if he was doing all right, and of course he wasn't there. Yeah. Freaking trip of a lifetime, guys. I enjoy all the comments that you guys have put out there. Sorry to leave you hanging like I have. I've got some really good content gonna come up. You're not gonna see me probably for about almost 2 months, probably about a month and a half. I'm just gonna kind of just buckle down, and I'll have some videos out when I get back, taking care of some business. So yeah, I'll put a few more videos out if I have time that I've already videotaped of, such as like the gathering. I have some of those videos, and yeah, guys, thank you for your support. I mean, I could not be more blessed with the people that I've been around, I've met, the gifts that I just keep getting, and just unbelievable, guys. I really, I'd like to give back. Not really sure how I can do that at the moment, but there's going to be a day, guys, I'm going to have to, obviously, I don't know. I'm going to have to give back. I'm going to have to work some second jobs or something, give back to you guys. I'm very blessed. I cannot believe I've got probably around about 850 subscribers. Not in a million years I ever thought I'd even have 100. I ain't kidding you guys. I know I don't tell you guys enough that you guys are so great. But just blessed, guys. Really, I'm very blessed, even with my family. Really am. Got a lot of people that love me, and we'll just leave it at that, I guess. So I'm gonna go enjoy my time out here. I may film a little bit more of different things that I see. I just filmed some stuff on some snakes, and filmed some stuff on some wild onion that I found out here. Like I said, I'm testing out these snake boots. I hope you guys enjoy. Like I said, I got a lot of new content coming. Got a lot of new content coming. If you guys have any more questions about that trip, I may have left some things out, but it is what it is. Thanks for watching.